writing is not easy, but it should feel easy when you're doing it. Writing feels effortless when you're in a state of flow. And when you're blocked, you are not in a state of flow. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. We all hit a block at some point in the writing process, even the best of us. What accomplished writers know is how to navigate that impasse, to notice when and why they're getting blocked so that they can move through it. But so many writers get stuck there and they can't move forward. So in this episode, I thought it would be useful to talk about 5 reasons you may be experiencing writer's block, and I'll give you some strategies to break through. Sound good? Now, before we dive in, what is writer's block? I mean, is it really a thing? We often hear writers say, there's no such thing as writer's block. It doesn't exist. I mean, plumbers never get plumber's block. But we all know it is a real thing because we all experience it at various times. So the technical definition of writer's block is this. It's a psychological inhibition preventing a writer from proceeding with a piece. Now, I don't think it's always a psychological inhibition. I think there are other reasons that we get blocked. There are technical reasons. There are mindset shifts that we need to get in place before we can move forward. But the thing is, we hit an impasse in our work and we can't break through. And sometimes it feels like we have nothing worthwhile to write about. We feel blank or we feel frustrated. We can't focus. One of my writer friends calls writer's block vanilla brain. Writer's block is painful. And what's painful about it is that it throws our identity as a writer into question. We doubt ourselves. We doubt our ability to write when we hit the block. But it's so common and it happens to all of us. So the way to break the block is to take small, consistent actions that give you the evidence that you are becoming the writer that you want yourself to be, that you're capable of being the writer you want yourself to be. So we need to shift our consciousness and the way we think about writer's block. So here are 5 reasons you're getting blocked and what to do about it. Reason number 1, you're just fatigued and overloaded. Now, I'm certainly guilty of this. If I don't take proper breaks, I get log jammed. And I can tell when I'm getting fatigued. It happens pretty frequently. I can go for days on end in a state of flow and I'm on fire. And then all of a sudden I hit a wall. And it's always because I've been working too hard and I have not been taking proper breaks. I can tell I'm getting fatigued when the writing just feels hard and I can't stay focused and I'm easily distracted. Now, writing is not easy, but it should feel easy when you're doing it. Writing feels effortless when you're in a state of flow. And when you're blocked, you are not in a state of flow. And sometimes you just have other major obligations. You have a family and a career, and there's only so much creative bandwidth we have. Writing takes a lot of energy. It's not this passive thing. I mean, it's very active. It's very dynamic. And the best thing to do when the writing is feeling hard, or you're just not connecting with it, or you just can't stay in the flow and you're losing the momentum, it's a simple fix. Just take a break. Read a book, take a walk, take a nap. Let it go for now. Don't let it go too long, just enough to recharge your batteries. Do something physical. So when the writing feels like a slog to me, I go for a walk, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. I just get outside. Or I do a half hour of yoga. Or I just do something mundane like the dishes or the laundry. I just switch channels completely. Now, the thing about shifting the focus away from the place where you're getting stuck is that it stops you from white knuckling your story. So if nothing's coming out or you loathe everything you're writing, step away. A lot of the time we're just creatively burnt out. We're just tired. And you can't write well when you're tired or when your mind is overloaded with other things. You need to be clear. You need to be firing on all cylinders, psychologically and physically. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just take a break and then get back to it. Reason number 2, you're focused on the end result rather than the process. So for example, you're thinking more about finishing the novel. You're focused on the goal of getting published. Now, often writers expect radical success right out of the gate. They want that validation. They're eager for that validation. They want the evidence that they're a real and serious writer. But it takes small strokes of improvement over time to get to the finish line, to finish the book, to get it to a place where it is publishable. There's no such thing as an overnight success. I mean, you look at books and you see the end result, but that's the result of years and years of consistent practice. And that work is invisible to us. And here's a frustrating truth about writing, or really any art form. The reward is delayed. The finished book, the publishing contract, the reward is delayed, often for years. And that's true for any art form, be it becoming a dancer or a musician or a sculptor or painter or an athlete. The reward is delayed. So how can you bring the reward into the present moment? Well, one thing you can do is put it on your calendar. These are the days I'm going to write every week. And then just mark it off every time you do it. Because if it's not on the calendar, it's very easy to brush off. And the thing is, you don't have to write well every time you sit down to write. Some days it's going to flow out of you and you'll be on fire. And other days it's going to feel more laborious and not as much fun. So instead of focusing on writing the book, instead of focusing on getting published, focus on becoming a better writer. Focus on improving your craft. Now, there's nothing wrong with setting a goal, which is to finish and publish, right? But here's where writers get stuck. They have the goal, but they don't put systems in place to achieve the goal. And here's the thing. There's a huge distance between here, where you start, and there, where you want to be. So the distance between your dream and where you are right now can be downright demoralizing. It can be really discouraging. And this is where a lot of writers hit the block. But the goal is not to write the novel. The goal is not to get published. The goal is to write something worth publishing. And that takes time. So you have to be in it for the long game. So set the goal, absolutely, but then forget about it. Don't keep the end goal in mind as you write. Just do the work, because your goal is worthless without a process to help you achieve it. So that means you have to make writing a consistent routine. So decide when and where and how you're going to show up to write, and stick to it. Be specific. So for example, for me, I know every weekday morning between 5 and 6:30 a.m., and sometimes earlier, I'm in my office at my computer writing. Then every other Saturday when I'm with my kid, I'll work say 7 to 11 a.m. And then on alternate weekends when my kid is with his father, I'll write 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and sometimes later. But you need to decide where, when, and how you'll write. Be specific and stick to it. Don't break the chain. And then take necessary steps to make your goal a reality. Now, if you focus on the work and not the end result, not the big goal, you'll be more present in writing your story and you'll get better. That's the only way to get your story to a publishable caliber. It takes time. Now, you don't have to write well every single time that you sit down to write. So don't think you need to be great every time. It just doesn't work that way. Some days you're going to be on fire. Other times you're not really going to be feeling it. Don't worry. This is absolutely normal. It comes and it goes. Some days it's great. Some days it's not, but you still have to show up. Reason number 3, and this is the most common reason for writer's block. You just don't have a deep enough understanding of storytelling techniques. So you're lacking some technique. And this, again, is totally normal. We all start out not knowing what we don't know. And really, there's no end to improving your technique. It's a lifetime practice. Now, some techniques I see lacking when writers first come to me have to do with pacing and character development and dialogue and scene building. There's often more telling than showing. There's a lack of suspense. The point of view is either weak or confusing, or there are too many character viewpoints. There's often more backstory than necessary. And so there are a lot of elements that you need to be concerned with, and there are only so many that you can focus on in any given time. So it helps to target the struggle and then to break down the techniques in a way that you can work on them separately. It's like putting them into a Petri dish and honing in on them separately. They all are interrelated, but it helps to work on them separately. So target the struggle. Now, it really does help to go to a workshop so that you can get some feedback. It really helps to get feedback. Or you can work with a coach or with an editor. Now, good editors are a big investment, and not all of us can afford that investment. But another alternative is to form a writer's group or join a writer's group. A caveat with that, though, I want you to be selective, because not all your peers will give you good, useful feedback, and they might even put you back into a funk. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. Now, for more about writers groups, go listen to episode 20, 4 Ways Your Writing Group is Holding You Back. So in this episode, I talk about some red flags to look for in writing groups so that you don't join them, and what to look for in your ideal writing tribe. That's episode 20, 4 Ways Your Writing Group is Holding You Back. I'll link in the show notes. Reason number 4, you don't have enough clarity on the story you're writing. Again, totally normal. You don't come to the page having it all figured out. Now, often writers are telling more than one story, and so it becomes overwhelming for them to write. They just can't get their arms around their own material. And what happens is they're just not clear on what their story is about. Now, a story is not about plot or what happens. It's about what happens and how what happens affects somebody else. And it's about how that person changes throughout the story. So the story is an internal one. It's not an external one. So you don't get that clarity by plotting your story or outlining. Now, you certainly should be working on plot and structure, but the real work, the real joy of writing is in the writing itself, not the planning. And this is why rewriting is so essential. Writing is rewriting. The only way to get clarity about what your story is about is to revisit your material over and over through revision. Don't buy into this idea that if you outline and plot first, you'll cut down on rewriting. You don't get to cut a deal. Because even if you outline and plot first, you're still going to have to know what the story is. And the story is an internal story. It's your main character's journey. And reason number 5, you're just too close to the work. We're not good judges of our own work. And sometimes we become microcritical of our work. Again, this is when the writing just doesn't feel easy. And it's not that writing is easy, but you should feel a certain amount of joy and ease in the process. So when this happens, just shift to a different project or shift to a different part of your story. So I'm fortunate in that I always have different writing projects in my queue. So getting stuck in any project is really painful. So for example, just this past week, I was working on a podcast episode and I was outlining it and I got blocked and I got overwhelmed and I couldn't focus. I just couldn't move forward. So I said, okay, I put it down and I turned to my list of content ideas and I started working on a different episode. Now, sometimes I also just switch gears completely. So if I'm blocked, I just turn to another freelance writing project. So one of my freelance gigs is writing program blurbs for a cable TV station. So when I'm stuck, I often will just do that work. And I find that it turns on a different part of my brain and it energizes me. And then when I go back to the one I was stuck on, I'm not stuck anymore. So switch gears, move to something different. Now, if you don't have multiple projects or you don't have anything else to work on, maybe switch to a different scene in your story or just write for the hell of it. Try writing prompts. Now, if you need writing prompts, I have a free PDF, 9 story starters. These are prompts and writing exercises that will help you turn on a different creative switch. Now, this is a different form of taking a rest from the work at hand, but it's more generative. Okay, here's an idea. One way to get past your block is to take writer's block out of the equation completely. So don't make it part of your story about why you can't move forward. Just take writer's block out of the equation. Just get to work. So, number one, take a break, change channels completely. Number two, focus on the process, not the result. Number three, target the struggle. Always be improving your craft. Number four, gain clarity on the story you're telling through revision. Writing is rewriting. And number five, when you're becoming microcritical and you just can't move forward, shift to a different writing project, or maybe to a different part of your story, or write something else, write about being blocked. Just have fun with it. Or use some writing prompts, warm up, do some writing exercises. This is a great way, again, to get the focus off the part of the writing that you're struggling with at the moment. And when you refresh, when you come back to it, the writing is so much easier. I promise. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Writer Unleashed. If this episode resonated with you, please go leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews are key to keeping Writer Unleashed on the top of the charts where other writers can find us. I'll see you next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, join us on our private Facebook group, Writer Unleashed Community. It's totally free to join. And if you want more free resources plus writing tips I only share in email, sign up over at nancypanuccio.com. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Till then, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.